Hello, today I'm going to go through the Mistral 2024.1 release notes and highlight some of the fantastic new things that we have in this release. So we've got a few highlights I'm going to point out. You obviously can go through the full list of changes. The most important change that I want to highlight for existing customers is that we have completely reworked the directory hierarchy to be more in line with the FHS/user hierarchy recommendations. This means that Mistral is far more intuitive to use, particularly for new customers. For existing customers, we have included a compatibility script that will create symlinks to all of the old locations for files, and so all of your integrations will still work once you have run that compatibility switch, which I'll show you in just a moment. The second highlight is that we now distribute Mistral with RPM and .deb packages. This makes it easier to install Mistral. Obviously, we still have the tar files that we always used to distribute. And in the other changes, I just want to highlight the top one here. We now have added support for Apptainer, and we have renamed Mistral's Singularity bind path to Mistral Container bind path accordingly to support both Singularity and Apptainer. Now, finally, I want to draw your attention to some additional documentation that we have included in this release. We've included this additional guide to help you get more from the dashboards and to help you interpret the data. So we've got two chapters. First of all, understanding the dashboard. So going through each dashboard, what is the purpose of this dashboard? What are you going to use it for? The data that you see and any additional information that we'd like to give you there, as well as some handy tips and hints on interpreting the data. And then the second chapter is understanding Mistral profile data in general, so looking at common I/O patterns, what they mean and what you can do about them. So I recommend taking a look at that guide in order to get more from Mistral. So let's take a look at what the install looks like now. You'll see a much simpler directory structure with everything in the usual places. We have the Mistral scripts and other utilities in /bin now. You'll still find the plugins in the plugins directory, as well as now docs in the docs directory, so much more intuitive. If you do, however, want to make Mistral backwards compatible with any integrations, if you look in sbin, you will find this script here, compatibility symlinks. This script has two options, create and remove. If I run create, then it creates symlinks to all of the old locations that Mistral used to have, so all of your integrated scripts will still work. Now let's take a look at those new install packages. Here I'm on a Rocky machine, so I can install Mistral via the RPM. So I can either do, obviously, an RPM -install followed by the package name. By default, that will install Mistral into /opt Altair. I can set a prefix to install that somewhere else, for example. And I can also use the yum install So now that's installed Mistral via the package manager. Let's check that it works. So I'm just setting up the license, exporting the log path. So I'm just calling mistral.sh and I'm just going to run ls. I've set the log file to be /temp, so that's going to run ls, and then we can take a look at the log output in /temp. I'm using the JQ application to nicely format the log files. This is what the JSON output looks like. Obviously, with a full install, you would integrate this with your workload manager and view the data in the Mistral dashboard, which we will come to in just a moment. But for now, that seems to be working nicely. Obviously, to uninstall, I can simply do a yum remove. Similarly, on my Debian machine, I can do a sudo apt install Mistral and remove it in the same way. Obviously, I could have also run dpkg to do the same, removing again with the -- remove flag. So now super easy to install Mistral. So just before we go, I will give you a quick demonstration of the latest version of Mistral in action. I'm running on my PBS cluster here, and I'm going to submit 5 jobs in a loop of 2. These are submitted to the Mistral queue, where I already have a Mistral hook set up. And you can see now I've submitted those jobs, the data is automatically coming into the dashboard. Here we're looking at the overview dashboard, which gives you reads, writes, metadata, as well as CPU and memory, including for the job in question, as well as for the host. You can switch to the job IO detail dashboard to get a bit more information, zooming in on different types of metadata operations, seeks, as well as reads and writes of different sizes. And then of course we've got the IO summary dashboard showing data from jobs that have completed. We have the network dashboard, so if you enable network IO, you get data in there showing reads, writes and metadata operations like bind or connect. And then of course we have the performance dashboard, which shows the performance of the file system that your jobs are running against. We have other videos showing demonstrations in more detail, so do check them out. But for the moment, thank you very much for listening.